My family demanded I pay $250 more per month to support my loser brother, but when I heard them planning to steal my savings, I moved out in secret and left them speechless. I'm 22 years old. I study software design and work part-time as a junior developer, and honestly, I need to tell this story because I still can't believe all of this actually happened. Like, when people ask me why I don't live with my parents being so young and still in college, I don't even know where to start, you know? Because the short version is that I moved out, but the long version is an absolute mess of favoritism, manipulation, and basically feeling invisible in my own family for years until I finally said enough is enough. I guess I should start at the beginning, or like, how it was living in that house before everything exploded. I had been living with my parents for like 2 years while I was studying, and honestly, I thought I had a good arrangement. You know, I was paying $550 a month in rent, which wasn't bad for the area where we live, and they seemed happy with that. I took care of my space, cleaned my stuff, bought my own food. Basically, I was like a normal tenant, but with the advantage of knowing the landlords my whole life. I worked like 20 hours a week at a local startup doing web development, nothing glamorous, but it gave me experience and money. And the rest of the time I dedicated to my classes and saving everything I could, because I had this dream, of eventually starting my own app design business. Looking back, I think my mistake was thinking my parents saw me as a responsible adult. I mean, I paid rent, I had a job, I got good grades, I never gave them problems, but it turns out none of that mattered because in the family hierarchy, I was always going to be below Shane, my older brother. Shane is 23 years old, he's married, he has 2 young kids, and basically he's been the golden child in my parents' eyes forever, even when he's objectively made terrible decisions. And when I say terrible, I mean the guy dropped out of college halfway through to get into an amazing business that never took off, then had 2 kids before he was 21, and after that, he's gone from job to job without staying anywhere more than 6 months. But my parents have always justified it. Like, Shane is finding his path, he's trying new things, he's very entrepreneurial. Everything changed like 6 months ago, when Shane showed up one Sunday morning with his wife and the 2 kids, all their stuff in a moving truck, and basically announced they were going to stay temporarily at the house. My mom was so excited, literally almost crying with happiness, hugging the kids and saying things like, "Oh, what a beautiful surprise. Of course you can stay as long as you need." I was there drinking coffee in the kitchen thinking, wait, is no one going to ask me if I'm okay with this? But anyway, I tried to be positive. I thought maybe it would be a matter of 2 or 3 weeks while they found something. The thing is that Shane arrived with this story, that he had invested in a business with some partners, something about technology and investments. It was never very clear exactly what, and that they were about to receive a huge payout, like millions of dollars, but that while that happened, they needed a place to stay because they had left their apartment to reinvest that money in the business. My parents believed it all, or at least acted like they believed it, and they started rearranging the house so Shane and his family could settle in comfortably. They gave him the guest room, which was the biggest after the master bedroom, and basically converted the living room into a second space for the kids with all their toys and their stuff. 2 weeks went by and I noticed that Shane wasn't looking for work or anything. He just spent his time on his laptop saying he was making contacts and closing the deal. His wife didn't work either. She stayed home with the kids, which is fine, but it also meant there were 5 additional people in a house that already felt small for the 3 of us who originally lived there. The kids are cute. I won't deny that, but they're loud and they're everywhere. And suddenly my routine of studying in peace became impossible because there was always someone screaming or crying or running through the hallways. The first sign that things were going to get really bad was when my mom asked to speak to me privately, like 3 weeks after Shane had moved in. We sat in the kitchen, and she started with this whole thing about how family is the most important thing and that we all have to make sacrifices, and I was thinking, okay, where is this going? And then she dropped it on me. We need you to pay more rent, because with Shane and his family here, the expenses have increased a lot. I was like, excuse me, what? Are you telling me that I have to pay more while Shane pays nothing? And she told me it was different because Shane was going through a difficult time, and besides, he was going to receive that money soon, and then he was going to compensate all of us. But that in the meantime, they needed my help. I tried to stay calm and asked her how much more they wanted me to pay, and she said $800 a month instead of $550. That was an increase of $250, like almost half of what I was already paying. And to put that in perspective, With my part-time job, I was making like $1,400 a month. So after paying rent, I would have $600 left for everything else: gas, food, books, savings. I told her that was impossible. That basically they were asking me to use all my savings to subsidize Shane. And she got all emotional, saying she couldn't believe I was being so selfish. That Shane had 2 children to feed, and I only had to worry about myself. My dad joined the conversation later and basically backed up everything my mom said. I remember his words perfectly. If you don't want to help your family when they need us most, maybe you should rethink what kind of person you want to be. And that hurt, honestly, because I had been helping. I had been paying rent on time for 2 years. I had never asked for anything. And now it turns out I was the bad guy, because I didn't want to pay for my brother's mistakes. Things got worse quickly after that. First, my parents started suggesting that maybe they could put a toddler bed in my room for one of Shane's kids, because the house was very tight and I had the second biggest room. When I told them absolutely not, that my room was my private space and I needed that place to study and work, my mom told me I was being ridiculous and dramatic. Then Shane's wife started using my bathroom without asking me, leaving her stuff everywhere, and when I complained, she said with this little smile like, "Oh, sorry, it's just that the other bathroom is always occupied. I didn't think it was a big deal," as if I was being the difficult one. The breaking point, the moment when I knew I had to get out of there, was like 2 months after Shane had arrived. I was in my room with the door slightly open and I heard Shane talking to my parents in the kitchen. They were discussing money, again, and Shane said something like, "What if we ask Quinn to use her savings to help us right now? Anyway, when I get the money from the business, I'll pay her back with interest." And my mom, instead of telling him no, that was absurd, said, "I don't know if she'll want to do it. You know how she is, but we can try to convince her." I sat there on my bed feeling like I had been kicked in the stomach. My savings, the money I had been saving, working part-time for 2 years while studying, the money that was for my future business, for my independence. And they were planning how to take it away from me, to give it to Shane and his magical business that probably didn't even exist. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay there. That it didn't matter how much I paid or how much I helped. I was always going to be the second option, the one who had to sacrifice herself, so Shane could keep being the favorite. That same night, I started looking for apartments, in secret. I didn't tell my parents anything, obviously, because I knew they would try to stop me or make me feel guilty. I searched in Facebook groups, on Craigslist, everywhere, and I found Aiden, a guy my age who was looking for a roommate for a 2-bedroom apartment. We met at a Starbucks to get to know each other, and we connected immediately. He was super chill. He worked at a music store and was studying audio production. And the best part of all was that the rent was $400 a month per person, like $150 less than what I was paying at my parents' house. I said yes on the spot. We signed the lease that same week, and I started planning my exit. I did everything in secret for like 3 weeks. I started packing my things little by little, putting boxes in my closet and under my bed, taking things to my car when I went to college or work. My parents didn't notice anything because basically they never came into my room. They were too busy taking care of Shane and his family. I told Aiden I was going to move gradually so as not to raise suspicions, and he agreed. He told me there was no rush and to do whatever was safest for me. I planned the official moving day perfectly. I knew my parents were going to go to a family barbecue where they would be all afternoon, and Shane and his family were going with them. I said I couldn't go because I had a college project to turn in, which was true, but I could do it from anywhere. I waited for them all to leave, like at 11 in the morning, and then I called Aiden and 2 of my friends who knew what was going on. They arrived with a borrowed truck, and we got to work like crazy. We took out everything: my bed, my desk, my clothes, my books, everything that was mine, and we loaded it on the truck in less than 2 hours. I left the house keys on the kitchen table with a super short note that said, "I moved. Out. I'll be fine. Don't look for me." The unloading at the new apartment was quick. Everyone helped, and by 4 in the afternoon I was already settled in my new room, looking around and feeling this weird mix of relief and panic. I knew my phone was going to explode at any moment, but for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. The apartment was small but clean. My room had good light, and Aiden turned out to be an incredible roommate. He respected my space. We divided everything half and half. No drama. My mom called me at like 7 at night. I was putting together my desk when the phone started ringing and I saw her name on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering, and as soon as I said hello, she started yelling. "Where are you? What did you do? How could you leave like that without telling us anything? We came into the house and everything is empty. Your room is empty," I told her, very calmly. "I moved out. Mom, I don't live there anymore." And she kept yelling things like, "Do you realize what you've done? You abandoned us. Your family needs you and you turn your back on us like this?" I tried to explain to her that I hadn't abandoned anyone, that I was simply doing what was best for me, that it wasn't fair for them to expect me to pay for Shane and his family while he didn't contribute anything, but she didn't want to listen. She started with the guilt trip, saying that after everything they had done for me, this is how I repaid them, that I was ungrateful, that I was being immature and selfish. My dad also got on the call at some point. I don't know if it was on speaker or she passed him the phone, and he basically said the same thing but angrier, like, "I can't believe you're so selfish. Your brother is going through a difficult time and you only think about yourself." I hung up when they started insulting me directly. I turned off my phone for the rest of the night because I knew they would keep calling, and I sat in my new room to process everything. Part of me felt super guilty, because they're my parents and my brother and family is supposed to support each other, but another part of me was furious because did they really expect me to ruin my future, to save Shane from the consequences of his own decisions? The next few days were a constant bombardment of messages. My mom sent me long texts like, "I can't sleep thinking about how we raised someone so cold and calculating. Your brother is devastated. The kids miss you," which was a lie because the kids barely knew me. Shane sent me a super passive-aggressive message saying, "I thought we were family, but I see that for you money is more important. When I get my payout, don't expect anything from me." My dad sent me a short one that said, "Until you apologize to your mother and come back home, I don't want to know anything about you." What killed me was that at no point, in none of those messages, did anyone ask if I was okay or if I needed anything. Everything was about how I had hurt them, as if my well-being didn't matter at all. And that's when I finally understood that this dynamic was never going to change, that no matter how hard I tried or how much I helped, I was always going to be the second option after Shane. I decided not to respond to most of the messages. I sent one to my parents saying I was fine, that I was safe, that I wasn't coming back, and I wasn't going to give them money, and that I hoped that someday they could understand why I did what I did. My mom responded with something like, "I don't recognize you. I don't know what you became." And that was basically the end of communication for a while. Shane kept trying. He sent me like 3 more messages in the following weeks, each one more desperate than the last, saying they really needed help, that the business was going to close at any moment, but they needed capital to keep it afloat, that if I lent them even just $2,000, he would pay me back, multiplied by 10. I didn't even bother to respond to those. I blocked his number after the 3rd one because it was obvious he only saw me as an ATM. The hardest part was learning to deal with the guilt. There are days when I still wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have tried another way, if I was too harsh. But then I remember how I felt in that house, always tense, always waiting for the next demand, never being enough, and I know I couldn't continue like that. I've talked to a therapist at the university. The mental health service they offer is free, and she's helped me a lot to understand that setting boundaries is not selfishness, that taking care of myself doesn't mean I don't care about my family. Now I'm in minimal contact mode with my parents. I send them a message every 2 weeks or so to tell them I'm okay, but we don't go into details or discussions. They don't ask me to come back anymore. I think they finally understood it's not going to happen. But we haven't really resolved anything either. It's like we're in this limbo, where we all pretend things are okay, but we know they're not. I don't talk to Shane at all. I found out from a cousin that the famous business never produced any money. Surprise, surprise. And that Shane is now working at a Walmart while still living with my parents. His wife also got a job. From what I know, but I don't have many details because honestly I don't want to know. I've disconnected from that part of my life as much as I can. Life in the new apartment is incredibly peaceful. Aiden and I get along super well. We cook together sometimes, we watch movies on weekends, but we also respect each other's space when we need to be alone. I have a solid routine now. I wake up, go to classes, work in the afternoon, come home to study, and no one is asking me for money or making me feel guilty for existing. My grades have improved because I can concentrate, and at work they just promoted me to senior junior developer. which comes with a small raise that helps me a lot. I've started to rebuild the idea of what family means to me. I have a group of friends from college who have become my real support system, people who celebrate my achievements instead of minimizing them, who listen to me when I need to vent, who don't expect anything from me except to be myself. I've also gotten closer to my cousin and an aunt who was always more neutral in all this drama, and they remind me that not all my family is toxic, that there are people who do value me. Do I regret leaving? Absolutely not. Does it hurt that my relationship with my parents and my brother is basically destroyed? Yes, a lot. But I've learned that sometimes you have to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your sanity, and I chose the latter. I have no idea if someday we'll be able to repair this relationship. Honestly, I don't know if I want to repair it at this point, but I do know I made the right decision for me at that time. The other day, my mom sent me a message saying that Shane's kids were having birthdays and they were going to have a party. They were inviting me if I wanted to go. It was the first time in months she contacted me without being angry or trying to make me feel bad. I didn't go to the party, but I responded telling her to buy them something nice from me and to tell them happy birthday. It's a small step, I guess, but it's something. My therapist says it's okay to take things like this, little by little, without pressuring myself to forgive or forget before I'm ready. For now, I'm focused on finishing my degree. I have like 2 more years left. And on continuing to save to eventually launch my app design business. I'm learning new programming languages in my free time, doing freelance projects here and there to build my portfolio, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I have control over my life and my future. I'm not living to meet anyone else's expectations. I'm not sacrificing my dreams to fix someone else's problems, and that feels liberating in a way I can't even explain. Sometimes I think about what things would be like if Shane had never moved back, if my parents had treated him with the same standards they treated me with, if they had valued my responsibility as much as they valued his potential. But the truth is, the problem didn't start when Shane came back. That just made obvious something that had been there my whole life. The favoritism. The idea that I had to be the strong and responsible one, while he had permission to fail again and again. And once I saw that clearly, I couldn't keep ignoring it. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe with time, my family and I will find a way to have a healthy relationship, or maybe this is all there's going to be. What I do know is that now I have peace. I have a space that's mine. I have clear goals and a path to reach them, and I have people in my life who really support me. And maybe it sounds selfish to say this, but I prefer to have all that in a dysfunctional family than to be trapped in that house, feeling invisible and used. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself. And now I can do it without that burden of guilt and resentment I was carrying before.